Welcome back to the X Podcast. I am back with my friends again.
What's up?
What's up? Hey, have you had enough time to think through your rap?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. It's been a whole episode.
I didn't think about this on our long break. No. Okay. Here's the thing. This is what I did last time.
Okay.
I'm gonna
What did
have
you do?
Chat GPT
Write you a rap.
write me
See,
a rap,
this is what's wrong
and
with
I'll
this
perform
generation.
it. I'll perform it
AI.
because again, I have to
Kids
be in
these
my
days.
creative. I have to be in my creative
All
mode.
I do is get on the internet.
It's not even working.
All right.
Okay. Whoa.
All right.
You just want us to banter until you're ready?
Yeah, banter until I'm
Okay,
ready.
so anyways, you are back. If you missed last week, it was an amazing conversation. We had some of our friends, Hunter, Chloe, and Lydia, and
Wow.
Zach join us, and we had a conversation around all things mental health, Gen Z, what it looks like to aim your life with purpose
Yeah.
instead of for fame, and all kind of things. So if you missed last week, make sure you go back and binge it. But here we are. It was such a good conversation.
It was
Thought
great.
we'd have a
So
part
good.
two.
Yeah.
Round two. Talk a little bit more about where are people getting it wrong with
Ooh.
Gen Z.
With Gen Z.
Gen
Yes.
Z. And but now that I've stalled long enough,
Yes.
Chloe, what do we got?
Well, unfortunately, the servers were down for ChatGPT.
Oh,
They do go down often. As a
AKA, I forgot
serial
my
user.
password. And
This is a
Oh.
trend I need to go away.
ChatGPT.
What?
I love it.
Listen, we have some very interesting conversations coming up this summer, X Podcast, all things AI,
I cannot wait.
and it's going to be a whole lot of fun.
It's going to be fun.
So if you're listening, tune in. We got Greg's going to be joining us, who he works in
We love Greg.
government, like secret. I mean, he's had all kind of interesting conversations lately.
I can't wait for that.
About the future. A lot of government intel. I mean, they're investing tens of millions of dollars when it comes to AI and how they're going to be increasing efficiency in the next few years. A lot of crazy thoughts. Okay, let's dive in. We actually have kind of a shared note of some of the top critiques and celebrations of Gen Z. Do you
Yep.
want to? We kind of
Kick us
started
off.
on one of them
Yeah.
last time, but yeah, let's go down the list.
All right. So here's a couple critiques.
Okay.
All right. We're just going to go through them one by one. I want you guys to react to them kind of off the cuff. What do you think? So
Okay.
here's a top criticism of Gen Z. Gen Zers have a short attention span.
What was that?
Touche.
Oh my goodness.
Gen
Mm.
Zers have a short attention span.
Absolutely.
Fair?
Yeah.
Is that
Yes.
fair?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Zach, first off,
Yeah.
is that? I don't mean this as an insult, but
Is that
isn't there
critique?
actual science and data about human beings' attention span and how it's shortened over the last few years?
Well, yes. Across all generations.
Yeah.
Yes, that is fair to say. But the specific source where I pulled this from just said even more so Gen Z has been affected by the phenomenon of shortening attention spans and the negative consequences that kind of come from that. So that manifests itself in not being able to stay involved in a conversation, moving on too quickly from kind of what's in front of you, getting bored easily.
Absolutely.
All of those things
Yes.
can happen.
I think that goes a lot into like what we talked about last episode, like the process. People think that just because they're stuck doing one thing that they're going to be stuck with that for the rest of their life. So it's like, oh, I'll just move on to the next thing or the next phenomenon or whatever that looks like. Yeah.
Yeah, we've even seen a rise in like ADD, ADHD diagnosis. Those
But I think
types
that
of
has a lot
things.
to do with our diets and the amount of sugar intake in our world today. I am not a
Wait, are you being for real?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I can tell you right now, in my lifetime, the amount of sugar and caffeine that
Mr. Mountain Dew.
Yes, I was literally Mr. Mountain Dew, like grow up, typical Little Caesars Pizza Mountain Dew kid. That was me.
Okay.
And because of that, I do have ADD.
So
Yeah,
Wait,
I
you think that resulted in your diagnosis?
No. I don't think so, but it does not help my attention
I see
span.
what
The
you're
fact
saying,
that
okay.
I've consumed so much caffeine in my life to where I think it's not that I think it's a placebo, but caffeine no longer has the effect on me that it did.
We talked, of course, a lot last episode about the effects of digital media and comparison. Do you also think, we could go all the way from the actual attention span to how maybe someone in your generation could get bored easily, move on to the next thing quickly. Do you think any of that has to do with the amount of options you're bombarded with now? I mean, how does this even go into relationships?
Oh my gosh.
I was thinking about this a lot before the podcast. And there's a term, I think it's called choice paralysis, where it's like you're just presented with so many choices that you can't choose one. And I think that is a huge thing amongst Gen Zers is like we have so many options that we're always looking for the next best thing. And I think it's huge even with like friendships and relationships, like, oh, yeah, you're cool, but like I think there's someone cooler out there that I can be friends with, or like, yeah, you're nice for now, but it's like we see everything as an option because we have such a big view of the world that it's like, oh, I have all these things out there. And I think even like romantic relationships too, it's like we're never going to settle and commit because we have this like idea of there's always a better choice, there's always a better option that we can put our focus on instead of just choosing to see something as it is.
Do you think that could also, I mean, I know we're just on the first one, but do you think that could also lead to potentially another negative attribute of flakiness?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yes. I think that when we no longer see things with value and always see it as a fleeting thing that, we can just push to the side and find something better, we no longer have integrity in terms of our commitments and the way we see people.
Okay, speak to that, even on a gritty level when it comes to like integrity and like valuing people. If a normal, let's just say, average Joe Gen Z tells another average Joe Gen Z, yeah, we'll meet for coffee Tuesday at 3:30. What's the likelihood it'll happen? And how big of a deal is it if one flakes? Uh-oh. Did I hit a nerve?
No. I think it's very, in my experience, it's very unlikely. Like, I think that especially if it's like the first time you meet up with someone or hang out with someone, like, there are so many times where I've made plans with people and it falls through. And I would say a good amount of times it's on me too. But I think it's just like, again, you say yes to all these things and say yes and make these plans and have all these things on your horizon. But then when it comes down to the actual capacity that you hold, it's like there's a disconnect in terms of like how many choices and how many things we can do. And then when it comes down to reality, I think it's hard.
Because, I mean, like, when you talk about integrity, a lot of times when we think of integrity, we think about the big things.
Yeah.
Like don't sleep around or don't lie or steal money. But integrity comes down to the small keeping of commitments.
Yep.
What do you think happens internally when people continually just don't know how to keep their word or don't know how to follow through on something like that?
I feel like even if it's a small thing, they think keeping a small commitment isn't good enough. Like, you don't see the benefit in that in the long end. Like, you don't see the little benefit of going out to coffee with someone. Like, they just don't see the long term of those little tiny commitments. So then it's like they just want the big picture in a way. Like, they want the big commitment first. It's like what we talked about with instant gratification. Like, we want that instant like success. We want to get there.
Well, rewarded quickly.
Yeah, we want the reward very quickly.
Yeah.
So then it's like you don't see the point in the little tiny things that you're committing to, because that's what adds up. That's what's important is the little tiny details.
You know what's funny though?
Yeah.
The same level of like, yes, like Gen Z, maybe they don't know how to have good integrity, but they expect that so much out of other people. They expect that on the flip side that it needs to come to me first before I even give it to them. And so
Like, what's an example of that?
like keeping with commitments. Like if someone else does that to me, like I'm going to be offended, but you shouldn't be hurt if I have to cancel on you for something. When it comes to the morality of our leaders and people that are over us, if they don't have good integrity, but I'm not even honoring the position that they have in the place that God has ordained them to be, that's just seems very hypocritical.
Yeah. Interesting. So I'm just curious, just field test, okay? So you're scrolling on social media, you're on there, okay, as you flip to a story or a reel or TikTok or whatever, how long does that have to get your attention before you're just going to the next one? 1, 2 seconds, 3 seconds,
Like maybe 3 seconds.
maybe
Yeah.
3 seconds.
Yeah.
So you're gonna watch a reel for 3 seconds, and if it's not interesting enough, catch your attention, just
Correct.
flip on.
Yep.
It depends. Like if it's in like the category that I'm interested in, I'm gonna like examine it,
Yeah.
but I'll only watch it once. I would say.
I've learned like, and this is something I've like been like, okay, I don't know, but even like faith-based reels or like whatever, like I have to like sometimes force myself to watch them because I'm like, I want to know, like maybe this is good content. These are things that I want to be taking in on social media, but like full transparency, if anything doesn't have me within the first couple seconds, I'm like, I do not care. Like I'm just like, nope, like it's next one, whatever. But, and I also look for familiar faces too. Like if I know someone and I typically like their content, then I'm more invested in it. But
Yeah.
I mean, literally
So interesting.
maybe 2 seconds.
So short attention span. It's a fair criticism.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on. Gen Zers are addicted to technology and can't handle face-to-face interactions. Fair or not?
Okay.
All right,
Well,
push back. Let's hear it.
'Cause
Come on.
We were talking about this in the office yesterday, or I think
Okay.
it was Monday, whatever. How you can see, like, yes, like we have a lot of access to that. I grew up with technology. I grew up with an iPod, so like I always had something, like obviously that's going to be a part of my life, but that's still the same with adults that aren't in our generation. They're addicted to technology too, just as much as anybody else.
Yeah,
Well,
my grandma loves playing that game on Facebook or whatever.
what's
I
funny
bet she
is
does.
there are a lot of articles coming out now saying that millennials at times are the people that are on Facebook the most and on social
Yeah.
media the most. I think reading into the criticism, probably the nuance of that would be, you know, I still think if you haven't read it, I don't care if you're a reader, everybody should read Coddling the American Mind because it really goes into like some of the societal and cultural things that have gone into this moment. And one of the things that's been happening for a while is this social phenomenon of young kids that, you know, if you're waiting tables, you notice a young kid that can't order for themselves.
Yeah.
Or
That's literally what I
or
talked
can't
about.
or like the fear to pick up the phone and call and address something.
Yeah.
Or would it be fair to say that you're the generation of ghosting?
Oh yeah.
That instead of having an honest conversation, there's just the ghost. Like, not to read into it, but probably it's speaking more to that than just, oh, you're on social media a lot.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, okay, what the social skills
Yeah.
to address things in person.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
that fair?
I think I've seen that even, not to like call them out, but like in my younger siblings, like they're going to be like, why would you say that? But they wouldn't mind. And I think they're both in the Gen Z range, but they're just like so not used to it. Like they're like, what do you mean we have to walk into Chipotle and not use the app? Like, cause like, you know, they can like, they're so familiar with the app. They can do that so well and they can like whatever. And like they're, you know, where maybe older generations are like, I don't know how to use the app, whatever. Like they can, like that is their, it's like almost their like their communication language. Like that's how they get things across is through technology, through these
They're
ways.
digital natives. That's
Yeah.
what they do.
Yeah.
And like that's so easy. So it's like handing someone who's never seen an iPhone, telling them to order something. It's like, what do you mean I need to walk in face to face? Like,
Which is really sad because if you live on Earth for a while, you realize that human interaction is the most important thing
it
you'll ever
is,
engage
yes.
upon.
Yeah.
Yes, but I don't think it's fair to blame them for having to use a digital device to interact and do things because there was a time where that's the only thing we could do. Also, the way that companies and advertisements, they get you to download their app and use it, and that's the fastest and easiest thing to
Yeah.
do. So that's what culture is going
It's
to do.
encouraged, definitely.
It is encouraged, and it's not something that Gen Z should be specifically blamed for. It's just the normal for them
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But do you think the convenience has caused a crippling?
Oh, yeah.
I definitely think it has gotten in the way of developing social skills and how to have a honest conversation with a human being, and that's why you see more people than ever like the term you use, I'll say hopping around because they can't find a real stable relationship because they don't know how to actually get to know somebody without swiping left or swiping right.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time Simon Sinek talks about the crazy old days where to get a date you had to walk up to a
You
human
actually have to
being
ask them.
Can you imagine?
and risk this horrible thing called rejection, but then find out, oh wait, my self-esteem can take that,
Yeah.
and you build resilience and you build courage to have these. But I mean, yeah, you don't really have to face that nowadays. You can just
But you need to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like you really
You
do
need
need
to.
to develop your character. You really need to.
You don't really know a
You need
person
humbled.
unless you actually talk to them face to face. You don't like catfishing is a thing. You truly-
Oh.
Lydia knows from
tell us
personal
about that
experience.
experience, Lydia.
Wait, whoa.
She's like,
She's like,
catfishing's
you
real,
like
guys.
catfish?
No.
She's like,
Oh.
it's a thing, and it's left
Dang it.
scars in my heart.
I thought it was real.
Dang.
No,
Oh.
I have not.
It's not
I'm
happened
just
to
gonna
you.
say that there.
But
Lydia has not been
But
catfished.
I've seen
catfishing
that.
is a
It
good
is a
example
thing.
of lack of social skills.
Yeah.
Yes, and people just don't trust people, so maybe
Yeah.
that's why even they have a hard time meeting people face to face. They don't
Yeah.
trust them.
Yeah.
Or have them.
There's lots of scary stories out there, for sure.
Yeah.
So, real. This is a fair criticism.
Yes.
Okay, next one. Gen Zers struggle with interpersonal communication methods or skills, so i.e. phone calls and texting.
What could you like break that down?
Is
more?
it pretty much what we just nuanced?
We kind of nuanced that a little bit more, but let's focus on the specifics of like phone calls and texting. I mean, we kind of nuanced that a little bit, but what do you guys think? Is your generation afraid to pick up the phone and call? What about, here's another one, like responding to text messages.
Uh-oh.
Me personally, as a member of Gen Z, and this is something that I don't think is necessarily good, but I find myself, this is the term, I don't know if I coined it or not, but I claim it.
All right, cool.
I say I'm chronically available. I feel like I'm always available to answer a text message. Like, it's like sometimes bad, but I'm always answering them. Like, I feel like that is like my comfortable way
Yeah,
of
you are.
communication. Is that sarcasm?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's,
That's like my comfortable way of communication. Like, I feel like that is easily manageable by me.
Yeah.
But I have noticed other people in my generation that I text, it's like, I'm like, do you even have a phone? Because, like, they don't answer.
Yeah, People
Yes.
say your generation is the left on red
Yes.
generation.
Yeah. Unpack that more, because you're saying that you, again, may be the anomaly, that you usually respond. But it is interesting. I've watched this. I mean, there's some great like podcast episodes I think on Andy Stanley's and Craig Rochelle's about intergenerational in the workplace, and one of the tensions is this, because I've watched this play out where a leader will send out a text and they may have someone younger that just won't even bother to respond, and from that generation's seat, it's like disrespectful. It's like, oh, so you literally are going to receive this from a
Yeah.
boss, from a supervisor, from a pastor, and it's just like, yeah, she's not even bother to respond.
Youth group chats.
You know.
Holy crap.
But but to a certain generation, it's kind of like, oh, it's just casual. It's like, oh, I mean, I saw it.
Yeah.
It's like passing out a flyer or something. Like, if I gave you a flyer, you wouldn't like personally come up and be like, let me respond to this. It's like, oh, okay, this is information I'm going to receive. I think that's how they see it, because some people, maybe it's just because I don't have a lot of text messages on my phone. So I value each of them and respond to them accordingly. But if you're someone like Lydia, who's really popular
I do
and
not
has like
know.
1,000 text messages, then like Hunter has 105. I probably haven't gotten that in
Wait,
a
how-
while.
You don't.
You have 105
I have
on red
105,
messages?
but
You are my dad. My dad does not. 105?
okay, it's mostly group chats.
How many do you have right now, Lydia?
102.
Guess how many I
That's
have?
not
How many
real.
group chats do you make though?
Here, but they're also like spams, where it's like a
See, I delete those immediately.
okay. But I will admit
Like brands?
that I will read a text message and completely forget to respond.
Yeah, I know, Lydia.
And I will not respond for a long time because sometimes it's like a really long message.
Oh
and I'm
no.
like, I have
Pastor
to
Russ is
process
taking my
first.
phone.
I have
He's
3
texting.
unread text messages, and they're only from one person.
Okay, but here's, all right, on a serious note.
Thank you,
sir.
So if this is the left on red generation, but then you guys have these streaks on Snapchat that last hundreds of days.
That's
I will
very
not-
high
I
standard.
don't
That's
use
different.
Snapchat anymore.
But that's different.
How's
That's a
that
picture.
different?
I refuse
You're not,
Snapchat.
You're not putting any brain or thought
That is
into
true.
that.
They'll send black screens. I lost all my streaks because I stopped caring. But in high school, it's like it's like you have this routine in the morning and at night you
Score.
send streaks. And
You,
it's like
you
it
would
keeps
not
track of it.
value someone's friendship unless you had a streak with them on Snapchat. It's very. Sometimes what's crazy is that some kids don't text or phone or call; they snap you. That they don't ask for your phone number anymore. They don't ask
Yes.
for that.
That's a
They ask for your
dating
snap.
thing, too.
Oh, I've heard that.
yeah.
Yeah. So I've heard that. It's probably even younger, I guess, quadrant.
I would
of
say,
Gen
like,
Z
middle school.
Doesn't even do. Don't even text.
If you have-
Texting is the new calling.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just you do everything through Snap, everything. Which this is another weird thing that I don't even know what the explanation for this is. But back when I was a youth pastor, Snapchat was huge. It disappeared for 2 years.
It did.
No one did it, and then it came back, and now it's just like as popular as ever.
Yeah. So weird.
But people use that for texting, communication, whatever.
Why?
So, but that,
Why will people text and respond and communicate that way versus is it the anonymity, like you send it and it disappears, so therefore there's like a sense of like people can't
I think it's
snoop or do whatever, like what is
I think it's just more versatile. Like that's just people like to have like something where everything's in one place. Like you don't want to be like texting on this and on that and on that. And like I think that's just a form of communication that is widely accepted by people. And I think like it also doesn't have as much formality as a phone number. Like you can just add them by pressing a button. You don't have to like ask for their phone number. Sometimes you can
so it's
ask
another
for
almost in
snap.
a way another comfort thing.
Yeah, and
But
it's
this
like
is just casual. I'm not gonna if I ask you
Oh,
your
it's just your
number. That's
Snap.
like a big deal.
yes,
Yeah, that's
like
true.
oh, he wants my phone number, then it's like serious. But if it's just like a snap, it's like like
Yeah.
whatever.
interesting?
It's
Very
the most interesting
The
thing
flyer
ever.
analogy I think is really interesting.
I use an
I think
analogy.
that could really say what.
I just really love analogies. And I was hoping
No,
I'd use one.
that's a great. Well, you used it aptly
Thank you.
because that really aptly, deftly, acutely, very well.
Perfectly.
Yeah, because that's a real thing. Because for one generation that's seen as like disrespectful.
Yeah.
But to see that as like, oh, like that doesn't need a response. They're just they put out that in the clouds and for us to read and know, and there it is. So interesting.
Interesting. Okay. We already talked about the next two on the previous podcast about how Gen Zers want to be rewarded quickly and they're obsessed with internet fame. But the last criticism, this is a fun one. Gen Z can dish it out, so pranks and sarcasm, but can't take the heat,
Absolutely.
criticism, and
Absolutely.
feedback.
Absolutely.
Fair or not? Your reaction.
Absolutely.
Unfair.
Okay, why?
You
Because
know
I don't
how
like
fair it is, Chloe.
criticism.
You know how fair it is.
You set
Chloe.
yourself up there.
I don't like to be called out.
Yeah, that's not
Right now.
fair.
in this
Don't
moment.
call me out.
I'm calling you out. So, yes or no? Fair?
I think yes, because I think it's it's like the same way of like if someone doesn't respond to me, I get upset, but if I don't respond to someone, I think it's like I'm like, oh, it just didn't need a response. It's the same way of like, oh, I'm obviously joking with Pastor Russ when I say all these things and being sarcastic, but when he says it to me, I automatically take it with the tone of like this means something more. You know what I mean? And I think it's like a sensitivity probably because we all communicate with sarcasm. I think in Gen Z it's like a huge thing, and memes, and
I hate it.
I absolutely love it.
I
That's
hate
my
it.
You hate what?
I hate like just
Sarcasm?
not sarcasm in general,
hate
but
me?
just like the way I am, I like to be able to like be able to read someone and know their intentions on the front end and not have to read behind something. And like I don't want to have to second guess what someone says to me. I want you to continue to be sarcastic to me because that's who you are and I love it and it challenges me. But I am just the kind of person that I want you to. I actually love criticism and I love being able to be challenged and critiqued because that's how we get better. That's how we get better as people. That's how we advance as humans in society. I mean, it really is. And in order to
Not everybody views it that way. Some people view feedback as a personal attack, not an investment.
Yeah.
yeah, well, it depends on who it's from.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
depends
That's
on
true.
who you
And probably how it's
trust.
given.
If you were
It's
yeah.
absolutely
Who it's from and how it's given.
If anyone on our staff had something to say that would actually, encourage me in a way that would also challenge me and help me move forward and not push me backwards,
Right.
that's what I desire.
And I've watched that from you. That's
Yeah,
true.
Yeah. And so and I think what Gen Z is like when it comes to cancel culture and when it comes to looking at the negative side of humanity, I think that's where the sarcastic and pessimistic tone is so prevalent in Gen Z generation.
I want to press in though, because I've seen this. You go out a lot of times to, let's say, a ballpark, or you go out to a fast food restaurant or wherever, and you'll see scores of young people, young kids, Gen Z kids that come in and they'll just lack a total sense of awareness of what's going on. They'll come in, the workers will be doing something, and maybe they're doing something that the Gen Z person thinks is funny, and then the friends will start laughing about it, and they'll start taking pictures of them like doing it, just complete like no awareness of how that could be making someone feel.
Yes.
But isn't that just kids?
Is it kids or is it Gen Z?
It could be kids, but yeah, I don't know.
Gen Z would take pictures of that and then post it on TikTok as like a funny trend.
Very true.
It can be. I think doing that can be dehumanizing in the terms of like, oh, we're looking at something that's funny instead of we're looking at a person,
Right.
like who is going to have
Yes.
feelings behind that. Because I've even like sent pictures around to people, like my friends that I think are funny, and like they've gotten hurt because of it, because they're like, why would you do that? Why would you make fun of me? And I'm like, I'm not making fun of you as a person. It's just like a funny picture. So it's like having to remember that the picture is a person, like
Yeah.
just because it's a picture. I don't know.
Do you think Gen Z is a line blurred a little bit for Gen Z?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Why?
I think it's just like I said, like when you're looking at something on a screen, it takes away the human. Like I obviously wouldn't like walk Lydia around and be like, everyone laugh at her. But if I have a picture, it's a lot different. I guess I don't know.
Do you think, kind of going back to the whole, you like to express one way, but receive differently? I think maybe we were talking about it one day at lunch, but you know, one of the leaders that Tim and I always talk about, feels weird saying his name. We don't try to, you know, Patch Tim and I always talk about on here is, you know, McMahon is battle ready, and he just launched part 2 of Art of Communication, and it's the 7 frequencies of communication. And we're actually gonna, I think I've told y'all, we're gonna take our staff through it this fall, and it's how everybody has primary and secondary frequencies of communication, and they use a few different ones. And when you learn each other's frequencies, it's almost like the Enneagram but for communication.
Yeah.
And so, you know, one of them's Maven, one of them's the frequency of healer, that when they talk, it's from like a soothing place of healing. But one of the frequencies is the frequency of commander, and you know, one of the things he nuances is it's an important frequency. If you are, you know, working in the fire department, there's a fire. Yeah. You don't need the frequency of healer. You need a commander to say,
Right, yeah.
get out, move this way, here's what we're doing. But he had an interesting observation, because they have a lot of Gen Z on their staff. And his generational observation was that in general, Gen Z likes to communicate in commander, but does not receive well from commander.
Yes.
That if you look at a lot of TikTok influencers, it's people at a very young age saying, you need to listen to me.
Very bold,
This is what y'all need to be doing.
Bold, declarative.
Yes, bold,
Passionate.
declarative, authoritative. And
Sentiments.
and just, you know, and let's just face it, everybody when they're 20 years old, 25 years old, thinks they know everything.
That's very
I did.
true.
But
I'm
I
not
do.
saying you do, but you do. But
I
you're
do know
the
everything.
anomaly. But is that fair that Gen Z in general tends to communicate in commander, but does not receive well in commander?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Let me think. I think that in terms of the way we communicate, I just think it's another thing of there's so many voices out there that if you don't get your voice out, you're going to get lost in
Yeah.
it. And like you're going to get lost in anonymity and like not being seen, not being known. So it's like, okay, I need to get my voice out there. I need to be seen and heard, or I'm going to just like fail to have any existence in society or in whatever space you're in. But I think in terms of not receiving it well, I don't know. Like I personally don't know if I'm like that. Probably. I feel like I am, full transparency. It's probably hard for me to like receive direction and commandment and whatever in that way. But it's probably because, again, I think it's where we don't see that in ourselves when we're communicating that way. Like I might interpret it as something negative, or I'm looking for something negative inside of it instead of just a type of communication.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you also just don't want to be misinterpreted and like misunderstood. So then it's like when you're going the wrong way and someone tells you something that, oh, hey, you shouldn't do that. Like, you should maybe not say that, or like maybe not do that to someone. You know what I mean? Like, being directed again, it's like, well, I didn't notice that. I feel really embarrassed, honestly, about that. So I
Yeah.
wish I was, sometimes for me, it's like, I wish I was told even sooner before going down a different path of like,
Yeah.
you probably shouldn't be doing that. Where it's like, you want to be corrected. Like, I think we all have that desire to know, to want to be corrected in a way, but also you just don't want to be
It doesn't
embarrassed.
feel good, though.
It doesn't feel
No,
good.
yeah.
It's embarrassing.
You want to
You're
be
like,
right the first time.
you
Yeah.
want to be right. I mean, everyone does.
And if it goes, if whatever behavior goes on long enough, and then someone calls you out, it's embarrassing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I've
Yeah,
been doing
for sure.
that. I've
It's like-
been like that.
Yeah, and that's why the reason that Gen Z has such a commanding voice is because everything that they speak about and everything that they are ambassadors of, they are passionate about
Yeah.
it, and it's
Yeah.
something that they truly stand for. So if you're going against what someone truly stands for, that's an attack. That's an attack to them,
Yep.
and that's what they're feeling.
Because it's like a personal belief sometimes people have. It's like, this is my personal belief. So, like, I don't want you to say anything wrong
Speaking
about
of
it.
personal beliefs, this is completely off topic, but I just have to ask this.
Who we voted for?
This is the thing that.
Someone had to say
Who we
would you
voted
vote
for.
Oh yeah. We're gonna go around. We actually did this off. If you've ever wondered, we actually off mic all just said who we voted for, but we're not gonna do that on here.
Oh.
But this is the part that does make me feel old from time to time. Is I'll hear just from once a week, once a month, because I just have stayed away from TikTok. I just have. I'm just like addictive personality, cumulative time wasting for me. I know it is a great platform for many, but for me, I'm just like I've chosen to draw the line there. I don't know. Who knows what the future will hold? But about once a week, I will hear, in my mind, the craziest thing that makes me feel like that old person of, the young kids are saying what these days? And one of the most recent one was that Gen Z doesn't believe that Helen Keller was real.
She wasn't. What do you mean doesn't believe?
Dude,
It's a fact.
How can a person write a book?
And be blind and deaf. She flew a plane apparently,
Apparently.
gave a speech apparently.
Like you understand,
It's a
like
conspiracy.
you understand that this would be like I know this is crazy to imagine. Imagine like 10 years from now, someone tells y'all, oh yeah, like Martin Luther King Jr. We don't think he existed. Y'all be like, wait, I'm sorry. Like how can you just randomly decide that you don't think a historical figure is real?
It's because when you
Where
look
does
at the
this
facts
happen?
and you stop believing all the lies the
Okay.
government
Oh
feeds
my
you,
God.
that's
Okay, listen.
Whoa.
We'll get into Bigfoot and 9/11 inside job next time. But,
Yes.
but these are okay. I don't even know. I just wanted to hear why. Like, how does this happen?
I think
It-
it's a joke, honestly.
There's just so much fake stuff everywhere.
Yeah. So it's like we're going to start picking apart everything
Yeah.
that we've been told.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Like, I want to do that. I want to pick random historical facts and just be like, I don't think that's happened. I just,
Yeah,
I don't
World War
I don't
II
think
wasn't
Billy
real.
Graham was real.
The Cuban Missile Crisis. Never
yeah. Okay.
We didn't land
Let's
on the
move
moon.
on.
Okay, so that's all I have for criticisms. I feel like
Phew. You stop
there's
sweating.
a lot of big ones.
What's
and
weird is I agree with most of them.
I
yeah,
think they're true,
so-
but I also own them. You know
you
what I
own
mean?
them.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge thing. Like we were talking about in between episodes, identity, not identity, entitlement.
Yeah.
And I think every human being has at least an ounce of entitlement.
Yeah.
I think you're mainly in trouble when you can't spot it.
Right.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no self-awareness.
Yes.
So I want to hit on some of the maybe things to celebrate or things to admire about Gen Z. See if you agree with these. So number one, and you kind of touched on this already. I'm actually going to combine 1 and 2 for a time perspective. But Gen Z, they're more passionate than many of us.
Yeah.
Gen Z has more empathy, more awareness of the world around them,
Yes.
and more willingness to demand fair treatment
Yeah.
for everyone. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to
Give me
say
some examples.
when we were talking, I just feel like there's you guys might think that's crazy, but I just feel like there's a high sense of morality. I know that it can be very subjective though, but I feel like just having a sense of morality is just like big amongst like young people that I see. Like they have a code that they follow, that they think this is right, this is wrong. And I think that a lot of it comes to seeing other people too in a way that like a lot of past generations haven't.
Yeah.
Because we're more aware. Like, you know, before social media, before, you know, you could see everything that was happening on the news, like you saw the people around you. But now we see humanity on this big scale, and like, how could you not care about it more? Like, how could that not be a pressing issue? But I think it's hard though when you want to care about everything and you have so much passion behind it. It's like focusing in on those things that I think is hard. But I see there's just so much passion, so much want for change and for things to be different and deeper in terms of empathy and care.
A lot of idealism.
Yeah. For sure.
Even like, I think you just see, like, our generation has seen what has happened in history and in the past, and they don't want to relive the past.
Yeah.
So it's like they are going against the grain of seeing what has happened and seeing how maybe they have been treated or how other generations have been treated. So they want to live they want to live in a different way. They want to make a change for the better. So it's like, that's what I feel like can be has helped in them want to change, is just seeing in the past what has happened, what hasn't been good.
Yeah.
I agree with all that. I couldn't have said it any better.
All right.
Next one. We've already talked about the entrepreneurial spirit that Gen Z is going to have, but I'm going to nuance that a little bit and just say this as something to admire. But Gen Z, they are more producers than they are consumers.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Producers versus
I feel like I can
consumers.
see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like what makes it different is I feel like Gen Z makes everything their own. Even if it is like more, like I feel like we do a good amount of consumption, but it's like, okay, how do I take this and make it my own? How do I take this and transform it into something unique that stands out? And I think that's like, I see that amongst like young people is they each have a specific, it's almost like, it is like a brand of yourself, but like it's creating things, even if it is like in terms of, I don't know, being like everyone else, but it's like making it your own, making things your own.
Yeah. It's like you're realizing that you are unique, you are an individual that has interests that aren't like everybody else. So it's like there's so much hope and encouragement from other people that you see their lives and how they live, and you're like, wow, they're living out their purpose and or even like their God-given talents and all these things. So like I know that that's in me, and I know that God created me differently. Just pulling in like on the faith side, it's like we all have individual characteristics and different types of things that are part of us that is all different. So like why not try to live that out in a way? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I would say that it's really cool to see. Yes, there's a lot of things that bring Gen Z together, but all of us here at this couch is so different than the other person. And I would say one thing that's really cool about Gen Z is they're the most diverse generation, not even ethically or, like where they're located or where they're from, but like everyone is so creative and so like gifted in so many different ways that actually does contribute to our society now. And so it's really cool to see, like, yes, there are things that bring us together, but every individual person that I've met that is Gen Z is so different in their own way that makes them stick out. And so like when you hear these voices or you see content creators and what they make, like this guy that we've kind of have been talking about the content, Jacob Salguera, I think that's how you say his name, but his content and what he's created is so different, and it's something that is needed, and it's something that everyone is starting to pay attention to. And I think if Gen Z would realize that they have a gift and they have a talent and they have something that is so unique to them that it can be used for something good, I think that is just something that's beautiful about Gen Z.
yeah.
I was gonna say, I just feel like Gen Z has more that they want to put out into the world than they want to take from it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's just like going back to people, our desire, like we want to be known, we want to be seen. So then that might also be a contributing factor to them expressing themselves in that kind of way.
Yeah.
Like they want to be seen, they want to have a voice in things. So that's why they're so bold and passionate. Like they want to be heard.
So to kind of sum up both the criticisms and things to admire, in Gen Z you have these almost digital savants or early adapters to technology who can adapt and change with new technologies that come. There's something innate and deep inside of them to be creative, to be unique. They're driven, they're passionate, they bring a sense of idealism and entrepreneurship into whatever environment that they're in. But yet, when it comes to some of the more critical human interaction, the face-to-face interactions, the developing of relationships, the interpersonal skills, maybe even the commitment to the process to actually see something through, that's where Gen Z struggles. So it's like they can see where they want to go, they can see something they want to create, but maybe it's hard for them to get there or to actually make it through that process. So you have really kind of an intriguing mix of both skills, things to admire, but also some things to overcome. So kind of in the way we closed the last podcast, what would you say to a listener right now who's listening who maybe isn't from Gen Z, but either works with a lot of Gen Z people, or maybe they have kids who are as part of Gen Z and they're interacting with them or their friends? What would you say to someone who interacts a lot with Gen Z in terms of advice for how to best interact with, communicate, talk with, kind of meet Gen Z on their level? What would you say to them? I'll go through each one of you.
Yeah, I would say that if you're a parent listening to this and you have a kid that's Gen Z, don't try to force on them the things that you love and you desire, but connect with them with the things that they love and they desire. Because you can tap in, like, not only can you connect with what they enjoy and what they love, but all it takes is a parent that's loving and caring enough to be in tune with what they're doing to, like, maybe bring more even out of them and to encourage them with where they're already at. Because what you can see on social media and what other generations do is criticize Gen Z for not living a certain way and not doing a certain thing, when really Gen Z, what the potential that they have is to actually make us better, and they can help other people, you know, learn from the past and advance toward a better future. And so if you're a parent, or if you work with Gen Z, or if you are even Gen Z, like don't feel like you have to be conformed to other people's, you know, passions, but tap into what you love, tap into what you enjoy, so that not only can you, you know, grow out of that, but other people can develop you and pour into you out of the things that you love.
That's so good.
Yep, that's good. Chloe?
I think if you find Gen Z maybe resistant to change or stubborn, whatever words you use, I think that instead of trying to change them, try to steward them into where they're at and to channel all of the good and positive things they have in the right direction. I think that's just the most successful thing in my life that I've seen in the lives of the young people that I'm in, is instead of like, oh, I want to force you to think and to do things this way, it's like, oh, I see this is how you live your life, the things that you believe in, the passions you have, and how do I help you channel them towards in the right direction. So, yeah.
Yep.
I was going to say, just be an encourager. And when you see someone who has potential, then speak it out and, like, point it out. And because for me in my life, I've had so many people just be the most encouraging to me in, like, my life, to tell me, like, I see this potential in you and I feel like you could do this. Like, that's so important, to have community, to have people around you to always point you in the right direction and to always encourage you along the way, because that is so important. You can't do this alone. You can't do this life alone. So be an encourager to those people in your life, and don't just try to put your own perspective or your own ideas, like, for what you think they should live their lives. Just be someone who's encouraging to other people.
That's good.
Yeah, that's cool. You know, I feel like, not that I need to be a voice for Gen Z, but sometimes I think Gen Z can get a bad rap, and I just think I've seen so much in just my time working with Gen Z. And I just want to encourage that if you're a business owner, or if you're someone who works with a lot of Gen Zs now, like, entering the workforce, they're getting ready to enter into some form of adulthood and whatever it looks like. So whenever you see someone, I love what you said, Lydia, at the end there, call out the potential, use those opportunities to actually mentor, to guide, to take people by the hand and say, hey, this is where we want to go. And I think that if you let them, and if you give Gen Z a chance to sit at the table, to bring their ideas, to bring their passion, they really can take your organization, they can challenge your mindset, and they can really open your eyes to a whole new world, a whole new future, if you let them and you give them the opportunity to kind of go in that direction.
Yeah, it's so good. I just think whether it's gender or, just different ethnicities, but even generationally, the more voices and minds you have at the table, the better you're going to become.
Yeah.
And I think, organizations that can be multi-generational, we're just going to make each other better.
Yeah.
Gen Z makes me better. Our different generations hopefully sharpen each other and encourage each other. And, I went to a little bit more of a spiritual tone last episode than I usually do. I'm going to do it again. The age range of Gen Z are the people in Scripture. Samuel is 11 years old
Yeah.
when he heard the voice of God and received that call. I was involved, whether it was officially, vocationally, or otherwise. Youth ministry's always been in my blood. So that's always going to be kind of me at heart. And I just think there's something special about that age to be marked by God, to be able to be shaped. And I think that is the generation that shapes the future. And like you said, even in the workplace, Gen Z is the generation that's going to be leading most arenas of society in the next 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think the more that we can come alongside and encourage each other and partner together, it's powerful. It's beautiful.
It's good.
I appreciate y'all hanging out.
Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah.
having
Well,
us.
Thanks
fun.
for having us.
Yeah.
It's
We
really
need to do 1 or 2 more of these this summer.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I'm down.
be fun.
Didn't even get to half our stuff,
I know.
but it's been good.
Yeah.
Just don't send me a text message because I won't.
Just
reply.
do not send me a
Don't
text
call
message.
me.
Give her a flyer.
Yeah, I'll hand you a flyer.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
Were you looking up a quote earlier? Did you want to share something?
A quote? No, I was. It's my rap.
Oh.
It's your rap.
My gosh.
Let's hear it.
Okay,
let's go.
ready?
Yes.
So shout out to the X podcast for letting me shine, for giving me a chance, letting my talent online. Little twisties on the mic, breaking through the mist, leaving a mark on the game, forever reminisced. Little twisties out.
Nice.
Mic
That
drop.
was good.
Nope. No.
I
Oh,
think we got
my
to.
gosh.
And that needs to be the real.
Yeah,
Gosh.
Absolutely.
there we go.
That's how you go.
I can't think of a
Internet
better
famous.
way to end our Gen Z podcast than with the rap.
From Chat GPT.
AI rap.
Yes.
Sorry, little twist. Yep.
Little twist. Thanks for hanging out. It's been a whole lot of fun. Thank you for watching, as always. And any comments, observations, questions for Gen Z, write us in podcast
that'd be good.
at thex.church. Yes, if you'd like to see us do a part 3 and you have questions, follow-up questions for Gen Z, write us in podcast at thex.church. Rate, review, subscribe as always. Until next week, we will see you then.
Peace.